You can't pay a mere $1,000 for my precious mother? My husband Henry exclaimed. But it's crazy of him to force me to spend money he can't afford. It's not as if he really needed the money. He just wanted to buy a luxury brand handbag for his beloved mom. Huh? I don't have that kind of money. I spoke up and kept my ground. Then I prepared the next words I say to my husband. I will reveal something about my mother-in-law that he doesn't know. I am Lily, 27 years old. I am a housewife who lives with my husband Henry and my mother-in-law. Until recently, Henry and I worked together as bookstore clerks. My mother-in-law started living with us shortly after Henry and I got married. His parents divorced when Henry was in elementary school, and his mother raised him alone. I understand his desire to show filial piety to his mother. So when he asked if she could live in with us, I immediately agreed. However, a big problem arose. Just a week or so ago, Henry was fired from his job. It would be tough to support both Henry and my mother-in-law on my own salary, even temporarily. Just as I was thinking that we had to save money, Henry insisted that I buy my mom a handbag for $2,000. He said that he promised her, so he had to buy it. How could he say that when he was in financial trouble because he had been fired? This is one of Henry's major shortcomings. He announces big gestures that he can't do, and later, when he can't handle it on his own, he panics and relies on others. And that person is usually me. For example, a few months ago, Henry went out for a drink after work with some of his junior colleagues. Hey Lily, do you have money right now? Henry's voice on the phone sounded as low as possible. And it hit me. I knew he was secretly trying to contact me. Are you short on cash? Yeah, I am. You said you would pay for all their drinks again, didn't you? When I said it, Henry choked up and said something like, "Ugh." I seemed to have hit the nail on the head. I had seen Henry turn pale when he looked in his wallet when he had offered to buy someone else a drink. I was with him at the time, so he took me out of my seat and told me he didn't have enough money and that I had to pay, even though he said he would buy the drinks himself. Are you telling me to go over there right now and pay? No, I'll pay for it. It would be embarrassing if they found out I had to rely on my wife for money. That's not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you were telling me to go over there right now? I thought I should have told him not to do anything that he thinks is embarrassing. But I refrained from saying so because it would have gotten me nowhere. Henry matters back to me unreliably. It's 30 minutes by car. If I go back home now, it will take me more than an hour to get there and back, so I might not make it in time. I'll make it up to you later. Fine. I mean, you'll have to pay me back. I know. I'll pay you back as soon as I get my next paycheck. So, how much is it? When I asked, Henry's voice became even quieter. 100. I can't hear you. 600. 600? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could he spend $600 on drinks after work? That's crazy. How did it become like this? I mean, I'm the oldest one here. Of course I have to tell them to drink as much as they want. You wouldn't normally say that if you don't have money. Also, are you going to make me pay for it all? You at least have some money, right? I only have about $10 in my wallet. Huh? How can you say you'll pay for everyone if that's all you have? No. At first, I didn't think that was all the money I had on me. Even then, it's weird. I'll make it up to you, okay? Please. Just please pay me back. And please don't do this kind of thing in the future. I know. Perhaps, sensing that I was about to give my consent, even if I had no choice, Henry's voice became strained. I was annoyed, but that was no excuse. I secretly delivered the $600 to Henry. As I was leaving the store, "All right. I'll pay for this, and let's keep working hard." Following Henry's words, I heard the man's vigorous replies and thanks. He's so cocky. My fist tightened in frustration. He actually inherited that from his mother. My mother-in-law was also the type of person who took the easy way out and got into trouble later. I realized this when I started living with her. "Lily, may I have a word with you?" My mother-in-law asked me this on a holiday. "Yes, what is it?" "I have joined a club for adults in their 50s and 60s. I've been asked to be the president." "I see. That sounds like a lot of work." "Right?" My mother-in-law's voice was full of excitement. "It's really hard work. I have to make a membership list, prepare for the events we organize, make flyers and other things. I also have to create a blog for the club and update it every day." I had a bad feeling as I listened. "So you want me to—" "Oh yes. I'm not very good with computers, and it's very difficult for me to make flyers and blogs. So, it would be great if you could do it for me." "You want me to do everything?" This was more than I was expecting. I thought she was asking me to help her, but I didn't expect her to ask me to do all the work. "Oh, I'll help you too, but I don't know how to do it. So I have to learn by watching you do it. So I think I'll leave it to you in the beginning." Why would you take on something you can't do? I thought so, but I couldn't say that much to my mother-in-law, who had just moved in with me. So instead I said this: "All right, but once you figure out how to do it, then please do it yourself. I have a job, so I don't have much free time." "I know." My mother-in-law lowered her voice in disapproval, perhaps because of the spikes in my tone. Then, with a brusque thank you, she turned her back to me. Thus, for some reason, I ended up doing most of the work of the president of the club, in which my mother-in-law participated. Instead of learning how to do it herself, my mother-in-law watched me to do the work once. After that, she would just throw the work away and said, "Well, I have a club meeting, so you take care of the rest," and then leave. After repeating this several times, I had reached the end of my patience. But when I told her I would not do it anymore, she would start crying. "I'm sorry for asking so much, but it's still too difficult for me. And there's no one else who can take on the role of president. If I quit my job as president, it would be bad for everyone, and the club wouldn't be able to go on. It's the only thing I have to look forward to now. And to take that away from me, it's just too much." Why are you acting so pathetic in this situation? I thought to myself. When Henry sees his mother crying, he couldn't stay silent. "Lily, you mean to tell me even when my mother gets like this? You can do it, so why don't you do it? It's mutual, right?" She's never once helped me, so it's not mutual at all. But 1 against 2 is no match for me. There was nothing else I could do, so I had no choice but to continue doing the president's work on my mother-in-law's behalf. Then, there was a birthday incident a few weeks after that exchange. I was still forced to update the blog and create flyers on behalf of my mother-in-law. On top of that, Henry wanted me to buy $1,000 handbag for his mother.
You know how Mom cooks great meals. It's a way of saying thank you for that, isn't it? Besides, Mom will be 60 years old, and her birthday next year. I promised her that I would buy her a $1,000 handbag to celebrate.
You promised that, and not me. So you should pay for it.
We're a couple, so the promise I made is the promise we made. Even though she is your in-law, she is still a mother to the both of us.
That makes no sense. You made a promise, but you're just crying to me because you got fired and can't pay me.
You're bringing that up now? I'm still reeling from the shock.
He's a pompous, spoiled brat. The reason he was fired was because he was too lazy to actually do anything and just talked about the work he would do. Anyway, you should keep the promise you made. I have my hands full supporting the family, and above all, I put some strength in my voice there. Your mother still owed me money.
Huh?
Henry's voice suddenly changed. It's as if he was being told something completely unexpected. This is good. I've lent her tons of money. I would never buy someone a gift when they owe me a lot of money.
You're talking about a few bucks, right? Or like $100? Either way, it's not that big of a deal.
$10,000.
What?
Henry's eyes went wide, as if he was spoken to in a strange language. That's exactly how I imagined he would react. So, $10,000. That's how much your mother owes me.
No way.
Well, of course, you'll be surprised by this fact. But it's the truth. As I said this, Henry's head finally started to spin, and the anger on his face began to show.
If she owed that much money, Mom would have told me. Don't lie to me.
I'm not lying. I've loaned her $5,000 twice, and I've transferred the money to her bank account. So if you look at the bank statements, I can prove it.
Do you want to go check?
Henry forced a gulp and looked frustrated.
But it's between family members. There must be something difficult going on if Mom had to borrow that kind of money. And you don't even understand that?
He doesn't get it at all. It's funny, incomprehensible he is getting. But I knew this would happen. I knew why my mother-in-law borrowed money from me. That this case was going to be even more laughable. I knew there must be some secret that she would borrow such a large sum of money from me, and not from her son. So I lent her the money, and I did my own investigating. Anyway, on top of all this, I'm not going to pay $1,000 for a gift for your mother. And if you think she's in a bad situation, ask her yourself.
Fine, I will.
Henry shouted and left the room. Now, Henry finally knows his mother's secret. I was filled with a nasty anticipation as I wondered what was going to happen. The reason my mother-in-law gave me when she borrowed money from me was that she was helping people.
Liddy, you see?
I actually know someone who is in need for money. My mother-in-law started out like that. And you know, I really want to help him. But I don't work, and I don't have any money, right? So I'd like you to lend me some money, if you can.
How much?
When I asked, my mother-in-law began to mumble.
Well, for now,
$5,000.
That's a lot of money.
Are you sure I'll be paid back?
Of course.
You may intend to, but what about the other person?
Don't worry. He's a solid person. He's very young. He has a job, and he has the ability to pay back the money.
She sounded confident, but I wasn't convinced. This person is very young and has a job. My mother-in-law's friend would probably be in their late 50s or 60s. They would not be very young. She must be hiding something. Since I felt that way, I let my mother-in-law the money and began to investigate her surroundings. Indeed, this is what I found out.
Hey! You've got to be kidding me!
I heard Henry's voice, as he immediately went into my mother-in-law's room.
You were going to nightclubs even though you were going to be 60?
That's right. The person my mother-in-law wanted to lend money to was not a friend, but a bartender. My mother-in-law had been paying a lot of money to one bartender at a nightclub, that without telling Henry. I followed my mother-in-law into the club, where she told a man in friendly tone, "I have plenty of money, so leave it to me." Moreover, my mother-in-law did not enter the club alone every time. Once every few times, she went in with several women. All of them were of the same age as my mother-in-law. And as I listened closely to what they were saying, I realized that they were members of a club for working adults. The club's activity was to go to nightclubs together.
Why the hell is my mom going to a nightclub?
Henry kept raising his voice, surprisingly louder than I thought would be possible.
I'm her son, and she's flirting with some young guy. How old is that guy?
He sounded distraught, as if he had just found out his girlfriend was cheating on him. I was truly disgusted. My mother-in-law explained in a slurred voice,
Don't be so angry. I just wanted to spend my few remaining years of life as happily as possible. I put everything about myself on the back burner in order to raise you. Now that you're out of my life, it would be nice to do something I like a little bit. Do you think borrowing $10,000 from your son's wife to do whatever you want is doing something you like a little bit?
When I left, both Henry and my mother-in-law looked at me.
Lily, you're right. It's crazy to borrow so much money just to go to nightclubs from your son's wife.
Henry tried to agree with what I told him before. He was trying to get on my good side, even though he was so condemning of my words earlier. You know, I have something to say to you as well, Henry. You saw me doing all the work for your mother-in-law's club, and you just ignored it. In fact, when I said I don't want to do it, you complained and kept forcing me to do it. And the club activity turned out to be going to nightclubs. So, in a sense, you were telling your mother to go clubbing. Henley's face gradually became distorted.
Is it true?
His voice trembled as he turned to his mother. She is frozen and a pale face.
How do you know that?
Henry's voice was hoarse as he said, "Shit," and he glared at his mother with sharp eyes.
The club dinner party you were talking about was actually a nightclub outing? You've got to be kidding me.
Henry, you have every right to be angry with your mother, but don't you feel bad for me? You should apologize to me properly before blaming her. You coerced me, and your own mother borrowed a lot of money from me to go and pay for clubbing. Henry looked at me annoyed.
We can talk about that later.
Excuse me? I was angry. So you mean that you don't think what you did to me and what your mother did to me is a big deal?
Hey, you're being annoying. I said we can talk about it later.
At Henry's words, I thrust a piece of paper on the table. They were divorce papers that I had already filled out. If that's the only way you can handle this, I'm divorcing you. I can't do it anymore.
What?
Henry's eyes widened as his voice suddenly became thin.
What are you talking about? Divorce all of a sudden?
Of course. You've been fired. You have no income, and you are forcing your wife to spend $1,000 on a gift for your mother. You already forced me to do what your mother should have done. And you don't feel bad about it. And you don't think anything of it. When your mother owed me a lot of money. Both you and your mother are terrible people. I took a deep breath. In the meantime, even if you don't agree to a divorce, I'm leaving this house. I've had enough of you and your mother.
Wait, don't say that. If you want me to apologize, I will.
My mother-in-law suddenly became distraught and hung on to me. She kept begging me to stay, so I responded to her coldly. I told you that I was fed up with you too, didn't I? Cut the crap and stop fake crying to get what you want. I packed up and left, leaving Henry, my mother-in-law, and the divorce papers behind. Then I rented an apartment and started living alone. I have not informed Henry and my mother-in-law about the new house so that we can be completely free of each other. After consulting with a lawyer and working toward a divorce, I finally got around to filing the papers. I am also asking for alimony and, of course, the $10,000 I lent to my mother-in-law to be returned. I don't know how she intends to get the money, but I don't care about that. I have no intention of getting involved with these people in the future, except for alimony and repayment of the money I loaned. However, not long ago, I happened to pass by the house we used to live in together, and saw that the land had been cleared. They must have sold the land. Henry had been fired. He will not be able to make a living. And he also has to pay the alimony and the money he owes me. It is only natural that he would run out of money. But it is all his own fault, and I want him to take full responsibility. After my divorce, I no longer feel exploited or forced to do anything, and I am enjoying my life. My job as bookseller is going well, and I have had the opportunity to meet famous authors. At that time, I happened to mention that I had designed the flyers, and one of the authors asked me if I would be willing to make flyers for a magazine that she would personally publish. I had no idea that I would be able to get close to a famous author thanks to the chores my mother-in-law had forced me to do. I guess you never know what can lead to something good. Of course, that doesn't mean I'm going to forgive Henry and his mother.